So, Sergio, first of all, the obvious question, what is GIS?
So GIS is a geographic information system technology utilized to mapping out so many different things in the world that we need to know their location. It answers the question of where and why or how deep of that nature. So it's a mapping solution created by Esri, which is a worldwide company. They are the leaders in the world with this GIS technology. And GIS is utilized by so many different industries. You know, it could be utilized for public safety, local government entities, private sectors, engineering firms. Nowadays, even students are being teach about GIS as well.
And is it fair to say that here in the Rio Grande Valley, possibly not many people would know about GIS and its capabilities?
In the valley, GIS has been growing very slowly. From my experience, being working with it for about 20 years now, 20 years ago, there was a handful that will be utilizing GIS technology here in the valley. Nowadays, it's a little bit more grown. More agencies, more organizations are utilizing the technology, but there's still a severe lack of expertise and knowledge of it through several of our colleagues.
How did you come across GIS yourself?
Well, that was a very interesting story. By nature, I was not a GIS person. It kind of fell in my laps. I was more in the computer science, information technology world, and I came to start working at the Council of Governments under a network department as a database technician, and became hold of being administering the software, the programs within the department, and one of these programs was this GIS thing. And I was like, okay. I knew we use mapping software to, map the streets and addresses to be able to geolocate people when they called 911. But there was this beautiful case, black. I remember it until the day today. And it was given to me to administer and manage all the software that was in there. And when I opened it, I found sealed boxes of this technology called ArcView 8.1 and 3.1. And I started asking the question, what is this? So it was it's a GIS program. It kind of arose my curiosity, and I picked it up. I started learning it. I see, this is what we need for 911. Back then, I was working with 911, and it was this program needed to create better maps, better addressing functions to geolocate somebody when they dial 911 for emergency purposes. So it kind of fell on my laps, and that's how I started working with GIS.
To me, that's a fascinating story. So I've got to ask, did someone within the Council of Government order that equipment, or did it just show up courtesy of the manufacturers to say, you guys need to take a look at this? I think it could be useful to you.
Well, the COG had been paying for the software already, and there were some GIS users, but they were on the 10, 13 versions behind this new version that had come up. So nobody knew the new interface, the new UI, the new processes or setups for it. So it was upon ourselves to start learning the application. Me and my colleagues at that point in time, we started looking for local resources, maybe reaching out to STC, UTRGV. Little did we know that there was no academic institution that would teach GIS. And when we found it embedded into some other degrees such as surveying, engineering, and it was like one or two courses at the most. So we went to the source. We reached out to Esri and started finding out where we could take trainings, and this whole new world opened up on trainings for us and everything. Eventually, STC did open up an associate's degree for GIS under the tutelage of Ms. Joanna Sanchez, who had just recently graduated from the University of Colorado with a GIS master's and came down to start teaching GIS in the Valley. So we were one of the few students back in 2007, 2006 era that we actually took some of the first courses that STC provided for GIS purposes.
So you really were one of the pioneers.
One of the few, because there was a lot of other ones that were pioneers back then. Ms. Joanna Sanchez was a driving force. Mr. David Flores, who currently is one of our assistant city managers of City of Mission. One of our colleagues that laid to pass, Mr. David Bartle. Those are the founding fathers. And we the young kids came aboard and started moving forward with this technology as well.
So, and is it now being taught in a more robust way in our colleges?
Not necessarily, and not yet. It is embedded in more degrees. UTRGV does have it a lot in their environmental, uh, social studies per se. STC is bringing it back under their surveying degree, and TSTC still has it under their surveying. But as far as having a designated certificate, associate, or bachelor's degree with any of our academic institutions in the valley, we don't. You would have to go out of the valley, and definitely bigger universities, bigger areas do have bachelor's, master's, and even doctorates for GIS technology.
So let's fast forward to the launch of your company, AIM GIS. When did you launch it? And what were your initial goals, or what was your initial mission statement with it?
So initially, we started the company back in 2010. Unfortunately, the region was not ready. There was still not much very demand or the need, or the local government entities had not seen the capabilities of it. So just recently, as of 2 years ago, 2023, my wife and I restarted the company again. So we've been in business for 2 years. And the reason why we came back in business is after I left the COG, I started working with a local government entity. Many of my colleagues in other cities, well, I would try to push GIS when I was in 911, but they really never picked it up. Now that they find out that I started working with a local government entity, well, what else are you using GIS for other than 911? That's what they knew me for. So I told them, well, GIS comes in handy for everything. You have a planning department, helps you with your addressing, helps you with the street maintenance, helps you with permitting systems, helps you with creating a lot of your demographics for development. You have an engineering department. Digitizing of infrastructure is another big one. Solid waste management system. You can create better routes for trash pickups, rush pickups. So you just have to get creative. I have always said the limitations of GIS is up to one person. It depends how far you can imagine yourself using it, that you're gonna limit the software. If you get creative, you can use it as even for simple graphics, editing pictures and putting things on there. So pushing it and helping, being in the local government world, it kind of started getting me out there with my ex-colleagues again, and Sergio this and Sergio that. Of course, my current employer, I tell them, hey, this is happening. I wanna provide the assistance because it's been in my heart since I learned it or started using it at the COG. That is something that the Valley needs. Unfortunately, like I mentioned before, we lack the expertise. So my wife and I decided to restart the company so we can subsidize that need. That technical expertise lacking in the Valley. Some of our cities are blissful to have somebody that does do GIS for them. But then we're talking about our smaller cities that don't have the resources, the funding, or the individuals to stay on and keep growing their GIS programs or systems. And one of our vision was that we wanted to give back to the company, to the community. We want to make a change that helps the quality of life and improves it here for the Valley.
So, who's embraced GIS in the Rio Grande Valley the most? Local government, municipalities, or maybe the private sector with the surveying companies?
I've seen it more on the local government side. Even though our private sectors are growing with it as well, local government are starting to realize the benefits of GIS. And with the change in state and federal government, where if you apply for granting funding and all of that, nowadays, some of their criteria is if you don't have like a conceptual design of the project you're trying to do, or some GIS data that shows the benefit of the project that you're trying to do, you don't get as many points towards that grant. And that kind of hinders you when you're trying to do drainage projects, street projects, or any type of project for that matter. On the private sector, though, our engineering firms and surveying firms are starting to realize that GIS is another big component. Granted, for their world, AutoCAD is the big thing because, of course, it's their design software is where they do everything. They design projects galore on there. But GIS for exhibits, for presentation circuits, for synchronizing with their clients or their constituents or other partners that they work with, it's becoming a very useful tool. And understanding it it's a complex that they don't have the expertise either. Not only on the usage of it, but the managing and administration of it as well. That is a huge gap and lack of understanding of the application.
Would it be fair to say that the biggest cities in the Rio Grande Valley, and we could name them, the very biggest cities we have, they understand it, they've embraced it, and they've got that tool in their toolbox?
They have. They have. In our bigger cities, Brownsville, McAllen, Mission, far, even those cities, they're playing. They're dwelling with GIS. They're doing a lot of stuff with GIS. Constituents, if they want to see some maps of the city and everything, they have their GIS online maps deployed and everything. Those cities are doing great jobs with the GIS technology, and they understand the need. And they have that blessful individual that's there, that's helping those entities grow with their GIS program.
So, your company, probably the niche in the marketplace that you can drop your company into, will be the smaller municipalities that haven't got that expertise. You can offer your services, and that gives them a leg up. That gives them an opportunity to just move into a whole new realm of expertise, a whole new understanding of how to survey and map areas, projects. You're giving them that opportunity through your expertise.
That is correct. That's one of our main objectives, to distribute to the awareness of GIS in all realms. Even though bigger cities, smaller cities have the same needs, and even the private sectors. For that matter, that's what we want to subsidize those needs. And we take it to heart, even to the point that we made it a point to become S3 partners. We're the only S3 partner that I'm aware of here in the Valley that has an association, a partnership with S3 that we have invested because we knew the importance, that we wanted to make sure that was upfront and people know we're not just an expertise here, but we have the backup of S3 as well, that if they want to play with something or test something, they have an S3 partner here in the Valley that, hey, we want to see this in action. We can showcase it for them. They can see it. And if they make their proof of concept or business concept for that to move forward, then they can do so. And that's another thing that we bring to the table. Being a partner of S3, we're kind of structured like S3 is. We were asked to, how we charge, how we do fees and all of that. It's a tier population, Wes. You cannot charge, if we were to get a job task order for one of the major cities, I cannot charge the same as I do a major cities to a smaller cities. So S3 has a well laid out plan as far as tier population of where they will rank in costs and benefits. And that's another thing that we try to do. We try to be very cost efficient for them because we understand the lack of funding. We understand the headaches that most city governments go through as far as funding goes, and understand that whole realm entirely.
So, full disclosure now, how did our connection come about, other than the fact that I would report on you when you were way back when you were at the TROG, the Council of Government. I attended the Delta Area Summit that the Elsa Economic Development Corporation put on. An incredible day, tremendous speakers. We learned so much. But you were one of the presenters. I think you did the lunchtime presentation. I was absolutely fascinated by what you're doing. So let me first of all ask, how did your connection to Elsa, to the Delta area, how did that come about?
So that was in the starts of the business as well. So when we started the business, we were hired to do a training at the island for the Stormwater Task Force. And within that, we presented, basic GIS and information about the GIS for people that were coming to the conference to understand what's more about GIS, how can they use it for stormwater purposes. Within there, we had the pleasure of meeting the city manager, and at that point, the planning and public works operations director for City of Elsa. And that's how we started. So we met with them, they saw what we were presenting, and they started asking us more information about what GIS can do for the City of Elsa. And conversations just bloomed to start a contract work with them. And now we are their GIS consultant for the City of Elsa. And currently we're doing everything that you can think of for the City of Elsa. Mapping out their infrastructure, building their layers for water, sewer layers, building mobile apps for staff to go out there and verify that the information and the structures are there. But one of the main things that is driving right now our work with Elsa and also Edcouch and in the Delta area is the big addressing issue that's happening there. It is not uncommon for other cities to have this same concept due to the lack of what we call an addressing coordinator. Addressing was not maintained properly. However, we are in the process of finalizing, correcting address issues that people are experiencing in Elsa and Edcouch, and the headaches that brings. More important, though, that I would like to get out there, having a wrong address creates a safety of life concern. Talking about experience in my previous work with 911, if you don't have the correct address and you have a 911 emergency and it is not correct in the 911 emergency, that is a safety concern. You know, it could potentially lead to somebody dying for something that could have been avoided in the sense. So our objective whenever we work with addressing data is that safety of life concern. Granted, it brings other headaches, your mail, your package delivery. So constituents in this area have been experiencing that a lot. And the reason of it is the addressing. So we're in prior of almost finalizing the addressing process for both of those cities that we work with. And we're restructuring the addressing and establishing better addressing schema that fall within the addressing concept for the cities. Some of the things that we noticed that was happening, the city kept growing. We're experiencing a tremendous growth in the valley. Unfortunately, because of the lack of the addressing coordinator with each one of the municipalities, the addressing was not changed. We got to remember, our 911 authority in the Hidalgo County area is the addressing authority. They have a different addressing schema than city limits. So when they annex a subdivision, you have a subdivision that falls within the 100 to 200 block range, but it has 7,000, 8,000 address block ranges. So that kind of creates an issue and a confusion, not only for 911 purposes, but now take it inside the city, operational purposes. You're looking for a house to go fix a water leak that happened on a water main, and they tell you, oh, I'm at 7,000, X street. Well, we don't have 7,000s in that range. So that creates so many different issues that we're addressing with this Delta Summit that happened in conjunction with Elsa and Edcouch as their GIS consultant, and that's what we're fixing. And the way we're going about it is, in order to fix an addressing issue, there's three major databases that you have to fix and hit. Number one is your 911 database. So once we're done with the data updates and changes and everything, there'll be coordination with the RGB 911 organization. We'll let them know this is the new database system for addresses and everything, so they can update their 911 system. This is what they call your 911 physical address. This is the physical location of your property. But there's two more databases that you want to worry about. The other one is the Hidalgo County Appraisal District or your appraisal district, which is the legality of the property. What does it get tied down with the physical address? It's going to have a mailing address. It could be anywhere in the world. But your physical address for that property also gets associated with it. And the third database is the United States Postal Services, which if you don't get it to that database, the outside world will not know your physical address. Hence, the issue about mail delivery problems, package delivery problems, that's how it all starts. Based on all of that, if you hit those three databases and give it the time necessary to cycle through the systems, the addressing issue will be.
In the Elsa Edcouch area, how many homes, how many residents you feel could be impacted by your work and therefore they may need to, in all probability, will need to have a brand new address? Do you happen to know how many it's going to be?
As of right now, we know that there's going to be hundreds. There's going to be hundreds of residents that we're going to have to send them a letter and let them know, please be advised, your physical address is not in accordance to the city schema, and due to a safety of life not being correct in the 911 database system, the address correction letter is being issued to you for this matter purposes. I don't have an exact count for each one of the cities right now, but definitely it's in the hundreds that we will be impacting individuals with this.
I know the question I was going to ask. I remember reporting, I would go to the COG meetings way back when you were there, and I would hear 911 staff say, we have an issue. It's hard to find these places because they were not, it wasn't computerized. So way back then, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, emergency services to get to an address after they got an emergency call, it was difficult. GIS is helping to solve that.
Correct. And I can remember one instance in my 911 days. that is stayed with me even until now, and I use it to emphasize on the importance of a good address because it stayed with me because I had a lot of involvement on it, having to give the feedback and explain why this happened. So having a good GIS system and having a good addressing system in place avoids duplication of street names and addresses. The instance that I lived firsthand was having to go to a home and explain a 4-year-old kid why his mom had died. Okay? In that scenario, the issue was a 911 call came in. Unfortunately, this street was duplicated in the north and south side of a city, and it was also in the same block range. And unfortunately, when the 911 call was made, it was due to a heart attack being in progress. Well, heart attacks, seconds count. Unfortunately, the ambulance did not go to the correct address. They ended up being on the north side of town when they were supposed to be on the south side of the town. And unfortunately, the constituent passed away. It was in the news. This was years back. I believe you and I also had an interview based on that call specifically. But it didn't end there. After we explained everything, I was still asked at that point in time, now as a 911 director, to go and explain to this family why she died. And I had to go and do it firsthand, you know? So because of that reason, many people sometimes think that I'm too strict with addressing, but there's so many few of us that give addressing the importance that it deserves. And because of that experience that I live, I don't play around with the addressing. I try to make it as best as possible because of safety of life concerns.
That particular incident, in the chronological order, did that happen before this GIS package arrives on your desk, and therefore you remember it to this day, you'll never forget it? Did that drive you to say, I have to master this, the valley needs this software?
It happened after technology came to my labs. And the reason why it happened is that once we started putting everything in the data in GIS, you're able to see a whole visual view of what mistakes, what errors are over there and everything. It's tremendous to see how many corrections need to happen. And we're talking about a few years back now, but it was amazing to see how many errors we had to fix, but we hadn't gone to all of them on time. But this GIS technology helped do that. Now our 911 system is a lot more robust, a lot more accurate. There's still a lot of issues that we have, but they're being corrected, and now they are a lot better now in that sense. And the tremendous growth that we just experienced in this past 2-3 years has not made it easy, but the technology being in place made it easy to, from one day to the next, put that street name, put that address in the 911 system versus weeks and months that it took before.
Going back to the Edcouch Elsa work that you do, this is probably a question for the city leadership of Elsa and Edcouch, but do you have any time frame? Do you have any idea when the public will be informed, hey guys, you're going to have to get a new address, it's going to be in your interest to have a new address, and this is when we're going to do it?
So we're in the final stages of cleaning all the data and everything, and we are the ones responsible to provide the cities the letters, the information, identify all the properties that will be notified, and then the city will decide when they move forward. From our part, we should be ready to go by mid-July to start turning all of that information over to the cities and everything. So this could come as quick as the end of this month, the beginning of next month. But you are correct. That will be a decision that each one of our clients will have to make after we review the data with them. We tell them everything we found. We are even preparing things for our officials to be ready to go, because they're going to get the questions of why the change, why are you doing this to me, how do I update this with Google, and all of those. We're preparing all the documentation to be turned over to our city officials and our clients for them to be ready to go for that. And on top of that, they're not doing it alone. We are going to be there besides them, because besides being their GIS consultant, we also serve as their addressing coordinators. So we are the ones that can also answer those questions to our customers.
Okay. So you're taking it upon yourself. You're working closely with the two cities. the residents, when they're informed that they're going to have a new address, you're going to be able to guide them. You said there are three key databases. You're going to be able to help them make sure that all three databases are updated.
Yes, because we're going to send the data to all three entities as well directly. Not only are we going to tell the constituent it is their responsibility to do it, but as the local government entities for Elsa and Edcouch, as the GIS consultants, we also serve as the liaison with other third-party entities or agencies that they might need to work with. And we speak the lingo that they need to understand it.
I can only imagine as you gain this special knowledge that's needed to operate a GIS system, that you must be in demand. Say the annual conferences of the Texas Municipal League and groups like that. I know a lot of those events are on the island. They like to have conferences there, but I can imagine that you're an in-demand speaker for all these different associations that need to know about GIS.
Definitely. We're trying to get involved. We're finding out about all of those associations and organizations as well, and we want to participate with them. We've been invited. The first one that we have been invited was the Stormwater Task Force, as far as their trainings and all of that. Recently, we were invited this February to the AWA, and that's the American Water Works Association in February. We presented there, like in the water world, there was a big mandate for them to provide lead service line inventory. The Texas, the TCEQ, it made it a mandate for them to turn in that inventory last year on October 16. Many people did not complete it or, subsidize, provided that request that TCEQ was needed. So we're getting involved because, like I said, GIS is not just for one thing. It impacts so many different things. I'm not to say that we know everything about GIS, but we have colleagues, we have expertise, we have ESRI support. And if we don't know something, we will learn it with you and we will walk the way with you. In that matter.
Right. How is AI going to impact you? Is that going to be another tool for you? Will that speed up the processes in some ways? Are you embracing that? Will that have a role?
We are keeping our eyes on AI, and it is coming into the world of GIS. There are some things that AI can already help us. As a company, we're not fully aware of all its capabilities yet. We've been doing research, reading, but this is the beauty about it. We're a service and solutions provider. I don't sell the software. I don't build the software. I don't develop the software. Hence, being an SRE partner, that's SRE's headache. So when they push out a solution or they push us, guess what? They already figure out the wings and bugs of all of that. We just learn how to deploy, use it, and put it to your use and show you how to do that as well.
Well, Sergio, those are all the questions I had. This has been a fascinating conversation. I knew I was going to learn a lot, and I really appreciate you giving us the time. Is there anything I've missed, anything else you'd like to add about your work and your company?
At the moment, not really. I just want to, let the Valley know that if they have any questions to GIS and they don't know how to go to, or if they've been trying to reach ESRI, we're a local resource. We can do consultations free of charge as well. And we will be able to assist you with ESRI. That is our role as an ESRI partner with them, to make sure that we bridge that gap between you and that ESRI provider, and that you understand what you're getting. That's one of the many things that also it's lacking in the Valley. You don't have the expertise of what licenses to look for, what you really need to run your operations, which can come very costly at some. Recently, we assisted a private sector in which they were paying thousands of dollars for something that they were not even using. And we were able to make a quick analysis and consultation for them, and we saved them about almost $10,000. Just on that simple, quick view of what you're paying for, save a lot of $1,000 for them. So we're here as a resource. We are willing to work with anybody that's willing to work with us. And we're here. We're from the Valley. We're local. Our home office is in San Juan, Texas. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah. And how I am sure the municipalities and other governmental entities are going to want to connect with you. How do they reach you? Share your email address, etc.
Visit our website. Our website is up and running. All our services are there. There's a way to submit a survey to get contact or inquiry, and you can see everything that we do there. You'll see my profile, my wife's profile there. and you'll find us there on the website. Our website is www.aimgissolutions.com, and there you'll find all the information of how to get a hold of us.
AIMGISSolutions.com.
Yes, sir.
Sergio, thank you so much for today's interview. As I say, we've learned a lot.
Thank